there's a story in every bottle. Cheers!
Cheers!
Another Monday. It's already another Monday.
How'd that happen?
Weeks go by so fast. It's kind of
You know, I smelled this wine just a few hours ago, yesterday, at an event. Yeah, we're going to talk about that, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to have fun. This is a fun show. I'm excited about being able to share this with all of you, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But a couple other things. Start with the standard preamble. If you are joining us for the very first time today, thank you so much. We really appreciate you partaking in our Monday Night Live. And please, if you like what you see and you enjoy the conversation, please subscribe right below me on YouTube. On Facebook, there's a little bell. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notified whenever we go live on YouTube or Facebook. And we do go live almost every Monday night, but occasionally we'll go live from someplace in
Newburyport.
Maybe we'll go. Yeah, maybe. We never went live from Stoneface last week. We said we were going to do that, but we shot some great video, and we're going to have a fun story to tell about that trip to Stoneface last week, if any of you remember from our conversation then. But
that was
so please, yeah, it was. So subscribe to our channel, and if you're joining us, please make yourself known in the comments section. Say hello. If you have any questions, ask the questions in the comment section, and we'll get to them on the show if we can. If we can't, we'll get to them after the show. And if you enjoy the show, again, like the broadcast on Facebook and on YouTube. Thumbs up on YouTube. And if you know people you think would appreciate it, share the show with your friends or family or people you think might also enjoy the show. We really enjoy being here with you every week, and it's, believe it or not, as much a learning experience for Ken and I. We talk about that a lot. It really gives us a chance once a week to kind of clear out all the clutter that is often in our lives, all the things going on that we're worrying about. He's worried about all the wines he's making downstairs, and I'm figuring out what we're going to do to marketing and all this stuff. And then we get to sit and
have a glass of wine together.
Have a glass of wine together and talk about nothing but wine.
Right.
It's a great opportunity for us, so I appreciate you guys joining us for it, and I hope you appreciate it as much as we do. And we already have some people on. Christine's here. Hi, Christine and Gary.
Hi, Christine, Gary.
And Michelle, I don't know, Torquemine. You can let me know if I got that wrong. Sorry.
Awesome.
Welcome. I
Great.
I haven't seen you on our live show before. Maybe you have been. I just haven't seen your name. But welcome, and thanks for joining us. And if you are having something to drink yourself at home, let us know what it is. Whether it might be a Hermit Woods wine. Some of you sometimes will have a crack open.
I'm having
one of ours.
Petite Blue Reserve.
And me too. And some of you might have something from some other winery you like, or maybe you're drinking something altogether different. But whatever it is, let us know. Have some fun with it. And before we get into this, which is the topic of the day, we're going to be talking about Petite Blue in depth. But there's some exciting things coming up, and I wanted to get that out there early. One of them is we're this close to getting our liquor license.
Is that why you're wearing that cool-looking sweatshirt?
It is. I thought I'd wear this today.
I know.
Because if we get our liquor license,
we're going to be able to have Bar Hill Gin here?
Bar Hill Gin is going to be, because we just went, Ken and I went to Bar Hill. Well, there's that was my punchline.
Oh, sorry.
We went to Bar Hill a couple weeks ago and tried some of their products. And my wife loves. You can buy Bar Hill in the liquor store, so my wife is always buying it for her gin and tonics and martinis. So
I like their stuff straight.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really enjoy it. In fact, I haven't had a martini from it yet, but I'm gonna. Actually, I think I have. But anyway, the real big news, though, is not just the liquor license and Bar Hill, but it's a new partnership. You already know we partnered with Tamworth Distillery for one of our new products. Our heirloom crab apple was aged in a VSOP apple brandy barrel.
That guy right there.
And that started a relationship with them that is going to continue. We have decided to dedicate our bar, our spirits bar, to Tamworth. It's a partnership. So Tamworth is really going to be the lead sponsor of our bar, and a good percentage of the products are going to be Tamworth products. We really love what they're doing. It supports local. They're crafting this stuff from local ingredients right here in our community, just 20 miles down the road. And they're, of course, fine with us also working with other local craft distillers. And so we'll be bringing in a couple other New England distilled products that either Tamworth doesn't have, or we'll just add some nuance and choice to the menu. Yep. But Tamworth is going to be the lead, and we're super excited about that. And so it'll be, if all goes well, the Liquor Commission's already been here, and they've given us the tentative approval. The commission will need to give their final stamp, and if they do that, it'll happen probably this week or next week when they meet. And it'll probably be about 4 or 5 weeks before we actually have our bar set up.
So Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. We're going to shoot for more. Actually, I think we're going to shoot for the week before so we can work out the bugs.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Good
and
plan.
Sweets, our chef, is super excited about, I keep saying super excited. It's got to be another way to say that. Anyway, chef is really excited about making cocktails with Hermit Woods wine, and in fact, he's
already been creating.
He's been creating some. We can work with Campari and Aperol because those are under 24, so they fit within our license. Yeah. And so he's created a couple already. And what I was so excited about the other day, he created a Negroni.
Oh.
A Negroni. I just came back from Italy and was drinking Negronis almost every day. I love Negronis. Yeah. I don't have them often here. There's not a lot of places to get a good Negroni in this area.
Don't you just make your own?
I do at home, yeah. I made a video. Remember my video, how to make a Negroni?
I must confess,
it was during COVID when we were all at home. I was making videos. Anyway, I'll
seeing the beginning.
I'll see if I can find it somewhere.
Yeah.
But so he made a Negroni with, what would he use? Our deep blue or melange?
No, melange.
Melange.
Yeah. The melange has got this really great, complex, spicy, vermouth-like character. So that's a replacement for the red vermouth that's typical in a Negroni. And then he'll use Campari, and he'll be using somebody's gin, probably Tamworth gin.
Yep. Or Bar Hill.
Or Bar Hill.
And Priscilla pointed out that this is really raising the bar.
Ah, she's very good at those. She is very good at those.
There it is. Nice job, Priscilla.
She would get
welcome.
one.
Huh?
Nothing. Go ahead. Carry on.
Yes.
We're not going to
stop. We're not having that conversation.
Not
now. We can have it later when we finally put a label on it and decide what we're going to do. So we're going to talk about Petite Blue today. So yesterday,
that was great.
Some of you may know or may not. We advertised for the last couple months a Petite Blue Reserve vertical tasting.
Well, it sold out too.
It sold out.
So there were a few people that wanted to join in, and we had to say sorry. It's sold out.
But it's okay because we're going to do it again. Yeah, and this is because we put it out for a different time a couple months ago.
Back in February.
And we didn't sell any tickets.
Right.
So it was a timing issue. People we chose the wrong time.
Yeah, this was Sunday at 2 o'clock.
Sunday at 2 o'clock, so it was accessible. We didn't interrupt dinner.
And a number of people wanted to have food afterwards, and it ran close to when we closed the food side. So
I think we'll move it up.
I think we move it up 1 to 3.
Yeah, 1 to 3.
I think that would be a couple months from now, 1 to 3, June, something. We'll do this again.
Not June.
Not June.
May.
No, we're going to do a Red Scare in May.
We can't do June. Let's do May.
Do May.
Yeah. End of May, like before Memorial Day, the week before maybe. Think about that. Anyway, you'll see. We'll post it if we can. But we're going to do another one, and the next one will be a vertical of Red Scare.
So, a vertical tasting.
Yeah.
Same wine from different years of production, and this is a well-worn process that people have done in the wine world for a long time, because it's really a fantastic way to taste Mother Nature, in so many words, in my opinion, that you get to taste what the whole planet is doing because you're in one place, one vineyard or one winery making the same wine year after year. Well, it tastes good each year, but it's a little different, and you don't really know because you come to that winery or you drink that wine and time is going on and you don't really see the changes or taste the changes. But when you sit down with all the wines side by side from different vintages and compare them side by side, you can really taste those differences. They stand out. And so we started yesterday afternoon with a 2011 wine called Blue that we made back in 2011, 13 years ago.
13 years.
Then we had a
It's
2012
astounding.
Petite Blue, a 2014 Boathouse Blue that Marika brought in. It was great to see Marika again. It's such a pleasure.
She's
And
come
then-
to a couple of our events.
Yeah, it was
in
great.
recent history.
And then we got to the main event. That was all sort of a preamble of me talking and sharing some of the really early vintages when I was trying to figure out blueberries. And then we started in the main event with what has always been one of the great vintages, the 2017 Petite Blue Reserve.
Which by far won the night.
Which won the night? People were like, can I buy a bottle of that? Can I get a bottle of that? How much of that is left? And we have just a few bottles left in our library. So then we got to the main event, and it was 5 vintages of Petite Blue Reserve. 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. And then we had to taste the 21 Petite Blue Reserve in the stone-faced barrels.
Of course we did.
And we didn't even try the 22 because that's in barrel right now.
Still in barrel, yeah.
Because it wasn't made in 22, it was made in 24. But it's a 22 vintage.
Oh, you're getting everybody
And
confused.
I
Don't worry
get
about
I
that.
get confused.
Yeah,
about
it's
it.
confusing.
It's very confusing. That's why there's wine involved. Because it makes it less confusing.
It's well, by the end of the night, nothing was confusing. Everything was fine.
Well, you made that comment. So we're all there. So there's 15 people, and there's a group of 5 or 6 that came in together. A group of 2, a group of 3, a group of 2, a single. They're different people. They don't know each other.
There were 15
and they
people
come
all
in.
told.
They all fit down, and we set up the tables down in the wine cellar where we make all the wine, in front of the stainless steel tanks and all the stuff down there. And everybody sat down, and everybody was quiet. And Bob and I were talking about tasting and vertical and different seasons and different techniques and all this sort of stuff. And it's very quiet. And we're talking, describing the first wines and telling about this or that, and it's still very quiet. But by about the 3rd, 4th, 5th sample, the volume of conversation went up, and Bob got up there and you said, now this is what I like about wine. You get people together, you have a few sips of wine, and pretty soon the conversation is flowing. It was true. There were 6 conversations going on simultaneously by
great.
that time.
It was great. That's what happens. That's part of reading that book when drunk. Yeah, I mean, he talks a lot about that. That's a lot of how the world got to be where it is today. Is that
And why
wine
it still
sort of
keeps going.
breaks the ice and allows us to talk and communicate, and as long as we drink within reason, we can maintain that for a long time. It's
Yeah.
really healthy
Yeah.
and good for all of us. So.
I forget his name. The gentleman that came in with his wife, he's been here a few times. He's very much in the wine world. He was a broker of wines.
Oh yes,
And,
yes. He had his own brokerage firm.
I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name right now,
Brad.
but Brad, thank you. So he came in and he brought his wine friend.
Yes.
So like the
Pretty knowledgeable
the
group.
older gentleman that sat closest
Right.
to me at the backside, he was talking about tasting Silver Oak in the late 80s. And I happened to be able to say, oh, I went to Silver Oak in 86. I went there with Gordon Alexander, took him there. And so we started talking about one of the preeminent Napa wine producers back when it was just starting to become apparent that Napa was going to produce good wines. And it was great. And he was, like Brad, tasting the wines, spitting the wines, taking notes about them. And this gentleman, both of them, have been around wine for decades and are very serious about wine. And they're sitting at Hermit Woods in our cellar tasting blueberry wine. And I asked the gentleman at the end, I said, so it's obvious you know a bit about wine and enjoy this. And we started talking about Silver Oak and the rest of it. He says, yeah. And I said, well, did you enjoy the wines? Did you learn something about what's going on? He says, yep. I really now can appreciate a fruit wine. He said, I think probably Brad was recommending that he come to this thing, and he was probably, no, it's fruit wine in New Hampshire. I've got better things to do.
Well,
but he seemed to really enjoy it.
The reason he was
which
here
was great.
is because Brad came, just randomly decided to pop in. He was touring the area with his wife, and he came in, and I happened
that's
to
how
see
he found
him
us?
here.
He just
Yeah. He might have heard about us from somewhere, but he was just here on vacation or traveling, and I happened to be here, and I was glad to be here. I said, well, let me take you through. I'll give you a tasting, and he was so excited. And this is a gentleman who had his own wine importing business. He's
That's
been
right. He was an
importing
importer,
wine from
right.
all over the world for I don't know how many years, and has had an opportunity to drink some of the best wines of the world because he dealt with wine as a professional. So he was shocked, as a lot of people are who come from the wine side, the grape side, more traditional wine side, and was blown away. He became a club member shortly after. He wanted to be part of this conversation, and as soon as this event came up, he actually had hoped he was going to sign up for the first one, but it was a scheduling issue.
That's right. He was the one that suggested the Sunday afternoon, right?
Yeah.
Because he had a group of people.
He said to me, he says, what would it take to get you to do it again when we canceled the first one? And I said, well, we just, if we could get 6 or 8 tickets sold, we would have held the event. And he said, well, what if I tell you I can get those tickets sold? And I said, should tell me the date and time. We'll do it for you.
That's right. So he helped pin
the date down.
and time.
Yeah, and I'm glad he did, because it really did make more sense to have this event on an afternoon. And I think you're right, having it at 1 o'clock.
I think Sunday afternoons at 1 o'clock.
It's a perfect time.
Yeah.
So that's probably when we will do it again. And the next time we'll do it, it'll be a Red Scare vertical tasting. And my guess
Matt,
is,
are you out there?
I think Matt might be in. He might be in.
Oh, he's in
Amsterdam.
Europe. Yeah, getting ready for a barge tour.
Yeah, he's got another boat rental.
Yep.
This is such an educational experience for us, and one that I think we should do more often anyway, just for our own purposes, so that we can stay in touch with the library.
We have a fun library.
We have a great library, and there's a ton of stuff, and we don't dig into it enough, and it's small quantities of each, and this is the best way to use them, to learn from them, and to share them with our guests in this manner. So you can probably count on many more of these. Red Scare being the next. We'll probably do the Petite Blue again, and maybe we'll do it in the fall.
I want to do a Lake House White.
Lake House White, yes.
For sure.
We did a version of that, not maybe for the public, but we did try some. For the show here, we did a Lake House White.
Yeah. And then I'd like to do, an oddball tasting. We have so many wines early on where I was trying all sorts of different stuff. And there's some really fun wines sitting there waiting to be consumed that, are there.
So let me share my takeaway, and then I'd be interested to hear yours.
Of the event?
Yeah, well, of what I learned from going through all these wines.
Because I learned a lot.
I did too.
The different ones. This is Petite Blue.
I mean, first of all, one of the things, sort of the broad brush look at it is, you had mentioned that you can, as you do the side by side across the years, you can really get the nuances between each of the wines, which is absolutely true. But what's also remarkable was they were all Petite Blue.
I had the same thing, that same revelation, really, tasting all those wines over those decades, and I pushed and prodded and tried so many different techniques, so many different approaches to making that wine, and yet they were all Petite Blue. You could tell they were Petite Blues. They had that same house flavor, character, which came through with the nuances. I could taste the nuances, I could understand the nuances, and I knew what I had done, how it ended up coming out into the glass. which was really helpful. But it was amazing that, and again, wine is driven by the fruit. The winemaker gets to nuance it a little bit.
That's right.
But it's the quality of the fruit that dictates the
We
wine.
talk about all these things about how you know, as you say, pry out the best flavors and try all these variations in how you make the wine. But at the end of the day, your goal is to try and let Petite Blue, the wild blueberry, be the wine.
Yep.
You want that to be what is most important. And you did it with every vintage, no matter how you tweaked and pried and tried different variations of
This is
fermentation
amazing.
and yeast and all this stuff. At the end of the day, blueberry still remains what it is the wine is made from, and the characteristics of that blueberry come forward in a very fruit-forward, friendly way. But then, as you also said, with every vintage, I mean, I could taste, you know, as I remember some of the ways in which you talked about trying this or trying that or different yeast, and you could taste those subtle differences. Maybe the average person trying the wine, certainly the average person trying it once a year with the new vintage would never know the difference. You'd have to do a side-by-side to know the difference.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And then the last big picture thing that came from me was, well, first of all, a 2011 blueberry wine tasted delicious.
That was
The very first one we had
really
was fantastic.
I
It was
really
really
like that wine.
enjoyable. It
Yeah.
had nice weight, nice body, more than it probably did in 2011. It's probably
by
evolved
far.
that way. Yeah. So that was cool. And then the other thing that was cool is that it was very clear to me as we were getting closer and closer to the current day that those wines were fresher, younger.
Right.
They did not have age to them. So aging those wines did make for better wines in the end,
It's so hard
which we say, of
to
course we know.
convey that to people. You know, we can talk here at the tasting bar, we can put in our tasting sheets, recommended drink window, letting someone know that, you know, if you put this in your cellar for 5 years, you will be rewarded with a more harmonious, smoother, integrated wine. But most people don't think about that. They're direct satisfaction type of thing. Most of it, all of us are.
Yeah.
If we can get satisfaction now, we're going to get it. We're going to buy it and we're going to drink it. And so it's hard to wait. I mean, that's why I like looking at Garage East when they come up with old wines. And I can buy a 97 Bordeaux. You know, it's like, oh, great. Someone else sat on that for 20 years and I can just buy it and drink it.
And I like sitting on it
And
for 20
you like,
years.
well, you're good at it. I can't do that. I would demolish your cellar in a month and a half, 2 months.
I
You
know.
would be gone.
I know.
It would just be gone. So,
Well, and you wouldn't get to enjoy it because it'd all be young.
oh no, I would enjoy it.
Well, that's just it. I mean, that's what I like about it is that, and actually it's been easier because Geraldine has had some, you know, wine hasn't reacted as well with her, so she's dialed back her wine drinking. So it's meant that the both of us have dialed back wine drinking a little bit, and so I'm going through the cellar slower, which is actually good news because I went through a lot of my older wines. We kind
Did
of
you get caught up?
we're pretty
You still got some stuff
there's
that's
a few
going on the back
There's
side?
a few on the very back end that I'm looking forward to getting into from 10, 15 years ago.
Because
but
Maya and I can
only
help
a
with
few.
that. Because Maya hasn't dialed back on the wines. So
Well,
the
you guys
two
just
of
need
us
to
can
come
help
over
out.
more often. Drink some wine with me. You know there'll never be any reserve pulling out wines from
I
that
know, it's
cellar.
great. It's awesome.
So we'll get through those last few, but once those few really old wines are gone, then it's going to take another 5 years before they all start getting into their comfort zone. Because I buy them to be 5 or 10 years old anyway. And
Yeah, it's like, you know, we got the 21 vintage of Petite Blue Reserve that we're selling and pouring now, and I take a case of that and put it in the library. And that case is just going to sit there for years.
And it's great. It's easy there because you totally forget about it because
I
it's
can forget
buried by
about
5,000 cases of current wine, and you know you can't even find it.
Right.
It might be a problem if we ended up actually sorting our library out so that you can actually find each one.
I
'cause
did
then they
sort
won't
it. I
last.
spent quite a bit of time over there.
You did.
Yeah.
Well, we got to get a rack so that we can.
No, I know. It'd be much better with a rack. But
accessible.
I've used some of the rack space over there to get it pretty well organized.
Good. And we'll get that warehouse down at some point into a more manageable because we got a little bit of an overflow because of the ebbs and flows of the last few years. So that'll start getting in line in the next
Right,
couple of years,
right.
and we'll have some room to,
Right.
to do it.
Right.
But, so that's what I took away. Those are the big picture points. Obviously, I took a lot of little nuanced points away from the individual wines, and
Yeah,
I did
I
think
think
2017 did shine over all the others. I think 2020, though, will clearly be the best vintage
that
in
will
the
be-
long run.
yes, it will.
But it was still drinking young and fresh.
Yep.
Uh,
But that's going to be a really great.
yeah, that'll hang
vintage.
on. So we used to say Petite Blue would last 5 years. I think 10.
Yeah,
I think we
10
should put
also.
10 because it really does hold up.
Yeah, we had a 2012 Petite Blue
Yeah.
last night. That's, no barrel aging, no enhanced tannins and structure provided by the barrels. That's
What do you
12 years
credit
old.
that to? The acidity in the fruit? I mean, there's not a lot of tannin. There's three things that preserve a wine. It's acidity, sugar, and tannin that we know of in the grape world.
Yeah.
And this, of course, is
An alcohol
is
level.
an alcohol.
Yeah, can
Yeah.
help. I don't know. There's so much of this is a mystery in so many ways to me. It's why it makes it exciting. I was trying to explain that to the people last night. What keeps me excited about making wine is the fact that it can taste good and it can age. From the fruit and veggies and stuff that grow right here in New Hampshire. I mean, I'm so happy that we decided to go down this path instead of just importing grapes or trying to grow a hybrid and, doing the easier route. It's a far easier route. Everybody knows Merlot. They know Chardonnay. They can come in and they can buy our Merlot and it tastes like Merlot. How about that? And the grapes came from wherever.
90% of the wineries in this part of the world do exactly that. They just import grapes
it made
from wherever.
sense because
and-
that's how you make that wine. But we took the uncharted path that is a much more difficult path to take. And I'm just really happy that, and it's the only reason we keep doing it, is that we have come up with some results that are wine. They taste like wine, they drink like wine, they age like wine, they go with food like wine, they get the conversation going like wine.
Yeah.
They do all the things that wine does, but they're this concoction. They're a crafted entity. They're not just a single fruit popping off a tree or a bush to create it. It's open-ended. I mean, I reached out to Iago. I really think trying to figure out the Sauv Blanc of New Hampshire is really going to be awesome.
I'm glad you're
So,
excited about that. Because after that meeting with him,
It's perfect. I mean, it's really.
the
I bet there's a
New
way
Hampshire grape.
to do it. I think there's I have a couple of different ideas of how to work with that, and I'm gonna figure it out. It's gonna take another decade for sure, but I'll figure it out. It's just
We're not going anywhere.
just
I hope.
time. It's just gonna go. Just do it.
Well, he's got 300. By the way, Marika is here. She's been commenting. So
Oh,
she's-
good.
yeah,
Hey,
she's
Marika,
joining
it was
us.
so great to see you last night or yesterday afternoon. I'm so glad you came, and thank you again for that Boathouse Blue. That was a nice one to have in the mix for sure.
Yeah.
That was great.
But so Iago has 300 varieties of kiwis, and I just keep thinking of. In fact, it might be worth contacting Randall Graham and saying, is there anything we can learn from you about your approach to exploring such a wide depth and breadth of new
I'll send him an email.
things?
I'll send him an email.
Maybe he has some insight, will take some interest, and can give us some direction for how to approach it. Because
Sure.
how do we figure out which of the 300 varieties? I mean,
It's just like him.
You've
I
been
mean,
trying to figure out Petite Blue for 12 years.
I'm still
now
trying
you've
to figure it
got
out.
300 varieties of kiwis to figure out.
Right.
At least we only got one variety of blueberry. Well, not technically.
Yeah, it's a
speaking.
blend. Yeah, exactly. Which brings me to another point. I'm gonna.
Well, before you go to that point,
Okay.
what did you have a takeaway from yesterday that we didn't already talk about? Was there something that you, as the winemaker, learned or felt about the experience that
No, I was pleasantly surprised that maybe a third, if not half, the guests yesterday had never been to Herman Woods before, And here they were in central New Hampshire, in our cellar, doing a vertical tasting of a series of wines made out of blueberries. That, kudos to those people to have that adventurous spirit, to go and do that, and for us to have the attraction somehow for them to come and do that. For you to getting it out there so that it can actually know that it's happening. That was just a great thing. When you asked about how many people have been here before and know who we are, it was only about half of them, or 2/3 of them.
So
that
actually,
knew us.
on that point, the two women on this side of
Yep.
the table were from Rhode Island.
Yeah, how did
They'd never even heard of us or been to our
Right,
winery before,
right.
but they were planning a mother-daughter trip to New Hampshire, and so they were researching what to do and where to go and what.
Wow.
And one of them popped up with this, saw this experience somewhere on Eventbrite or on our webpage or somewhere, and like you said, had an adventuresome spirit and decided to dive in. And they live down in Rhode Island, right near Diamond Hill Vineyard.
Oh.
And I've been to Diamond Hill, and it's certainly a very nice place to visit. But they lean into importing grapes for their classic styled
Right.
wines, and most of their wines are sweet.
Yep.
And the two commented. They said, you know, we really enjoy going to Diamond Hill. We really enjoy the experience, and we go there with our friends on a regular basis. But we always find the wine too sweet for us. And it was such a joy to come here last night or yesterday and actually see that it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
There can be dry wines made
Right.
in this part of
Right.
the world. So,
Right.
and that's really so many people's experience, because I've traveled to, I've probably visited half the wineries in New England at one point or another in the last 20
Yeah,
years, and the dry wines that I've had at wineries in New England are made from grapes imported from some other part of the world. Period. That's it. And I shouldn't say that. There are a handful I've run into, like
Yeah,
the blueberry
quite a few.
wine.
Yep.
Over the years, there's a handful of people that have experimented with a dry version of a fruit wine, but it's very rare to
Yeah.
come across that. And so any of the wines being made from the local fruit are being made sweet, almost without exception. So this is really a different experience. And I say this to people during our tours and at the tasting bar all the time, that what we're doing here, we're the only winery in the world doing it. And it's kind of hard to help people who don't live in this world understand how is that possible.
It is.
But it is.
It is fascinating. I don't know why there's such a big disconnect. Why more people aren't making Petite Blue. I mean, we published the recipe.
I'll tell you why. We
People-
know
people
why.
could go and make this wine. I have people who are home winemakers, and I say, here, I'll give you the formula. Tell me what you're doing. I don't know why more people don't do this. It's economically viable. It's utilizing local ingredients.
I think
I don't know.
I think the
what it is.
reason is clear. To me, it's pretty clear.
Okay.
And if you're
Because it's a lot easier to sell Merlot.
if you're serious about wine, you want to do what 99.99% of winemakers are doing around the world. You want to go down that
we're
path.
serious about wine. We got into this because we were serious about wine, and yet we decided in 2014. I know we still had a few 2014 vinifera-based wines here. And then at that point, we said, you know what? We're going to dedicate all the way.
So we
we
broke
went
the
in.
rules, and we're different. We're approaching life differently.
And we're kind of proud of that, aren't we?
I
We're
think
like
so, we
Proudly
should be.
contrarian.
Proudly contrarian. The other thing that is a good reason for this is we ran into this in many of our conversations with winemakers around New England when we were exploring our business plan. And basically, the mantra was just add sugar till it tastes good.
Yeah.
It's really hard to make this. I
Oh,
remember the
I
first
know.
couple
Right.
vintages of our fruit wine, and we're like,
Oh, they were terrible.
We've got
They
a
were-
long way to
oh,
go
yeah,
to
they were
get
terrible.
to a vitis vinifera style wine. And so
Yeah.
and
It's
you're
taken a while.
punished for it. You are I
Well,
shouldn't
it
say
is
punished,
It is. It is a
but
hard.
we
path.
have an uphill battle
All the time.
every day
Every day.
for 14 years of business.
and we still do.
Because everybody who walks in that door is one of two camps. The one who enjoy New England wine and looking for something sweet, or the ones who enjoy vitis vinifera and know that it's not possible to
real
make
wine.
it out of anything but grapes.
Right.
It's an uphill battle.
Everybody who comes through the door,
Yeah.
unless there are people like you that know our wines.
Exactly.
Thank
well,
you.
it's a battle easily won once somebody comes to this
Well,
bar.
and I think it's the combination of us that really works well. You know what a winery should look like and feel like. So people who come in here go, oh, all right, this is a serious winery. And then, fortunately, I've been able to figure out how to turn fruit into something that drinks like wine. And people come in and they try it, like the guy last night who's deeply into wines going, okay, I get it now. You can actually make good wine from blueberries. That's great. It's a great combination.
And
it doesn't make the path any easier for everybody who walks through that door.
Because you still got to get them to the
Once-
tasting bar.
You still got to get them here. You still got to get a sample
You
into their
got
mouth.
to get them to come through the door. Oh,
You gotta
another
get 'em
New
to come through
Hampshire
the door.
fruit winery.
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
going there.
Or, oh boy, another fruit winery.
Yeah.
You do what?
Yeah. Dry wine? What? But you know what? It is changing. The
It
world
is.
is
It is
changing.
changing.
You presented to 20 winemakers from around the East Coast who all make great
That was
wine,
awesome. That
and
was
you got
awesome.
a standing applause.
Yeah,
So
that was fun.
the wine industry itself is writing about it more. They're talking. New York Times wrote a great article about it not long ago.
The young man from Manhattan who was here just a few days ago is a sommelier
At one of the
Who walked
Michelin star
at a Michelin star
New
restaurant.
York restaurant, and he came in. His mother lives here. He grew up here, and moved to New York eventually. And his mother lives here. And his mother said, when you're in town, you ought to come see these guys. Are doing interesting things. And it was just a stroke of luck. I met him. He happened to walk in when I was here, and I said,
Good.
"What are
I'm
you?"
glad you.
what are
That's
you
why
doing here?
more and more as we're here, it's great.
Yeah.
Make those connections and.
And we had a great time. And I hope we see him again. And
That was wonderful. He came down. I was in the middle of bottling some wine with Ben, but we carried on the conversation, and he loved the wines.
He did.
Which was just, it's always so satisfying because I drink some of these wines and I'm really happy with what's been created, and to have other people recognize that as a serious wine is always really.
What was
satisfying.
so cool about doing his tasting is that he had deep, deep knowledge of wine. I don't get that much opportunity to speak to somebody
Yeah.
who knows so much about so many different wines. And to hear him talk about our wine was a joy. I wish I could have recorded it.
Yeah, that would be
Because
cool.
he was picking up nuances and comparing them to wines that he'd had in other parts of the world.
I'd like to
and-
hear some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's important stuff. I gotta have a little more wine. in
Yeah,
my
me
glass
too.
because
Well,
I
it's
could-
time, yeah.
And
What are we going to have?
how about some Aurora?
Aurora. So this is, it's a little bit old news. We talked about this at last show.
I
'cause
know,
this was
but there's a little bit
there's a little left.
there
so we should have
because
some.
we opened some this weekend, I guess, and shared it around. I sent you that video. Did you look at that with the swirling of the?
Yes. Yes, I
glass?
got to
I
post
saw-
that. I
yeah,
didn't
it's
post that.
really- That's really amazing because during the solar eclipse that this is named for and commemorates on the back label, Bob and I were out there on the deck watching the solar eclipse, which it was about 97% here, and everything gets sort of that eerie, darker color, but it's still bright sunlight out, still daytime. And I'm swirling the glass and I'm looking at the reflection, and you can see the reflection because the sunlight's strong enough to create that reflection, but not so strong that it whites it out. And I got a white piece of paper and swirled the wine, and it created this magical pattern. And I just,
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It was really neat. One of those things I didn't expect from a solar eclipse at all.
Was that just last week?
It was Sunday.
It was
Monday.
last Monday.
1 week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had Aurora for the show last week, so
Oh,
we're having
that's
it again.
It's a nice wine. I really like
It is a nice wine.
where this has gone.
So a lot of people are comparing this to Northern Berry Red. So help me and help everybody understand the difference between this and Northern Berry Red.
So
This is a big difference.
there is a big difference. There's two things that make it different from Northern Berry Red. Both of them are honeyberry wines.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are made with blueberries. It's about 20% wild blueberries. How they diverge then is in Northern Berry Red, I use about 80% dextrose, corn sugar, and 20% honey to make up the additional sugars necessary for the yeast to create a wine that's at 13% or so alcohol. In the case of Aurora, it's 100% wildflower honey. So this is a mead, kind of like Red Scare. It's a mead, a mellow, but it's fermented dry and then barrel aged. The other key difference from Northern Berry Red, which really changes the flavor profile the most, is the fact that this is 100% Aurora honeyberries. There are many different types of honeyberries, just like there are different types of apples, different types of grapes.
Does the seed produce a different fruit in this one, or do you know?
I don't know, but I assume, like a lot of fruit, it needs to be grafted to be true to the product, but I don't know that in berries. So years ago, when we first started making honeyberry wine, I got a mix of honeyberries from Ben Chaba over in Sandwich. He grows the berries. And he said, you know, you might really like this Aurora berry because it has a slightly different flavor to it. And I said, well, that's great. Can you get me enough, 30 pounds or 60 pounds separate so that I could use that and make a separate batch? And he did that once about 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and it was a couple honeyberries, and I made separate 5-gallon batches, all of which got dumped into Northern Berry Red.
Right.
But it gave me the opportunity to try them. And the Aurora, it must have more tartaric acid or something much more wine-like, much more like a wine made from wild blueberries. It tastes more like wine, more vinous. And so he actually planted more Aurora honeyberries for us. He got nailed by cedar waxwing birds. He got nailed by bears that come in and eat the fruit before he can harvest them, unfortunately. But 2 years ago, he got enough of the Aurora honeyberries separate for me. This was the cedar waxwing year, that I could make 4 carboys, 4 5-gallon batches of Aurora honeyberry wine. And I didn't know anything about the eclipse coming up 2 years hence, but I made these meads, and I got to experiment with, you know how I stagger the sugar addition
Yep.
during fermentation?
Yep.
Well, the way I made Aurora, what I was practicing with is I made one batch where I mixed the whole thing together in the very beginning, all the honey, all the water, all the fruit.
Oh, so
And
you
the
got
other
to-
one I did staged, so I could see what the difference might be. It's it's one of the different sorts of experiments
Yeah.
that I run all the time to
Yeah.
see if what I'm doing actually brings anything separate to the blend. And you can do it both ways. You
works.
get good results, but you get better results with the staggered
Sure.
addition.
And
So I
in
continue
this
to do
world, as we talked about, better is an ever so delicate nuance between an okay wine and a great wine.
It's like the 2017 and the 2018
Right.
and 2019
Both
yesterday.
good wines,
They're
both
good,
drinkable, both delicious. But that 2017 had
Was
just
better.
a little bit of je ne sais quoi
Yeah.
that you can't get otherwise.
Right, right.
That's actually really fascinating when drinking all the different wines we try in the world. I've hardly found a wine I really don't like. I mean, you can find a way to get your head around every wine
Yeah,
in
Maya
some
and I
way.
had a California Cabernet last night. We've had spaghetti with some red sauce.
Sure,
and
it's
She
fine.
bought it at the state liquor store, and it was fine. It was nice, but it wasn't
then
one
when
that I
you
went like,
have-
Jesus, I got to go back and buy another case of this.
And when you have that
And
experience,
then you go back and buy another case.
and the average person, again, might not ever notice that subtle difference, but when you do this all the time, you notice just a slight difference between one vintage and another, between one wine and another, and it's miraculous. It's like when I went to Italy, I was saying yesterday, we had some wines I drank the other night from my trip to Italy, and I've been buying Italian wines here.
Those were the best Chiantis I've ever had.
I had the
They were
best
great.
Chianti I've ever had. In every bottle I drank in Italy. It was just, it was stuff happening in those wines I've never
I
had.
buy these Chiantis
Can't
at
do
the
it.
liquor store, and sometimes drop a little extra money on them, and it's just kind of forgettable wine.
They're
It's
middle
wine,
of the
it's
road
okay,
Chiantis.
but it's not that great.
Yeah.
You have to go within 50 miles
Of where the wine is made. And I didn't have to pay through the nose for these
No,
wines.
they're not that
I mean, They
expensive.
were reasonably
Yeah.
priced. But you could only get them right there.
Except for that one little crazy thing that we had at the end,
Oh my
which was
God.
really cool stuff.
That was
But
insane.
It's intense.
It was the equivalent of $180 for
Right.
that size bottle. It was pretty insane. But worth it, in my
Mhm.
opinion, for two reasons. One, I got to bring it home and share it.
Yeah, I'd never had anything like that
Yeah,
before. Ever.
me neither. And it really is unique. It's special. For no other reason, it's good.
Yeah.
Get to share it.
Yeah.
That's half of what I do anyway when I travel around. Is what can I bring back to share with Ken and Chuck and everybody back home.
It's fun. Chuck is on his way back from Barcelona right now. We'll get to see him tomorrow.
He'll be
But
here
he's
tomorrow,
not
yeah.
here. He's not here tonight. But
He won't be here next week either. I think his
I know
his
he's
schedule's
traveling.
just
He's turning
off.
right around. Because I was thinking maybe we could do something on Friday, or we were going to get together for dinner, and so I was thinking maybe he could join us. But he's on the
He's
calendar.
gone
It
again.
says he's back to Barcelona.
He's gone again. Yeah. He's
Working.
globetrotting.
Working
He's got to work hard because he's got 4 years more to do it, and then they're going to boot him out.
Right. He's a commercial airline pilot, and at 65 you have to retire.
He makes rumbles about that changing, but I can't imagine it's going to change before he
It
turns
might.
65.
You never know.
You never know.
It's like the rules for buying alcohol when you're a teenager, right? Didn't they change for you? Every year you were, you know,
yeah.
you were 1 year behind. Like
I turned
the-
18 1 month after the law changed it to 19,
Right.
which meant the next year I was going to turn 19 1 month after they turned it to 20. And then I was going to turn 21 1 month after they turned it to 21.
Yeah.
And I moved. I'm leaving. I'm not going to torture myself with this.
Yeah.
Of course, I went to a state when I moved to that it was just 21. So
Yeah,
it didn't really matter anyway. Didn't help, but
Yeah.
so
That's wild.
but think about that. Can you imagine if somebody came to you in 4 years and said, "Ken, you can't make wine anymore. You're done. You've aged out. You're not able to do this anymore."
I would be making a lot more wine right now. I would scramble.
Yeah.
I have
You got 5 years left to do what you love.
a whole bunch of experiments that I want to do.
Yeah.
And there's just so many hours in the day. There's so many tanks and containers and cash flow and all the rest of it to make it all work that I would double down like he's doing.
I think that's what Chuck's doing because I agree. I mean, I can't even imagine that. And you could say, he'll be able
he
to
loves
fly.
flying.
And yes, he
Right.
could fly. But the difference between flying a plane that you rent at the local airport, or even maybe buy your own plane, or fly for some cargo carrier, the difference between that and taking 300 passengers across the Pacific
Right.
Ocean to some far-flung place is night and day.
Different, yeah.
That's what excites him. He's
Yeah,
intentional.
I think he's really excited about the sailing part because it is like flying because you're still going through a viscous medium that you're trying
Oh,
to
sure, he'll figure it out.
figure all that stuff out.
I don't think he'll be bored.
I had a great conversation with him skiing a few weeks ago, and I could really understand why he wasn't going to pursue flying after he was forced to retire in some capacity, which he could do. He's going to segue into more sailing. It's something that he really enjoys. And I could see, because you're still working with physics, with the
Navigation.
variables of the Earth and navigation.
Yep.
And he loves all that.
Yep.
He's trained to do that, and he really enjoys it. And we get to go along with him.
I know. I can't wait. I love to sail.
We're going to go look at a sailboat tomorrow.
I know. It's pretty cool.
Which is great.
So we have a couple more minutes left. We have one other big piece of news to share that we should go
We
grab one of
should.
those. Not that one. Jesus. Come on.
Come on, that's the one sitting next to you.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
That's the one we want to show right there.
That's what it's going to show.
So, as all of you know, we went through about 3 years ago a exploration of canning, and many of you got very excited by it, and many of you purchased lots of our different cans of varieties of wines. We had to discontinue the canning program because we were being essentially forced to can at a volume we couldn't keep up with.
Right.
That's what was required to get a mobile canning line here, and so we essentially had to give up on canning until we could get our own canning line.
Our
And
own canning
we've talked a little
line.
bit about this, I think, in the past, but we actually have the canning line now in the cellar, and this is the first
Ben and
outcome.
I did this today, and thank goodness Ben is so good at canning. He's like a magician. He's been all over this new machine, and he loves it. He's been so excited. And so we canned cranberry cider today, and it's now out for sale, and we've already been drinking it. It's the same old wonderful, delicious, easy drinking cranberry cider. And we have 3 other products scheduled for this year to come out before the summer. One is our blueberry cider in a can, which we've never had before.
With a brand new label
With
design.
a brand new label design, which looks a bit like this, but a different color.
Yep.
And then we have a honey lavender cider. And this is Ben's brainchild, and it's great. There's a local grower of lavender right here in Plymouth, and we get the honey from Troy Hall apiaries over in the Connecticut River Valley in New Hampshire, and we get the fresh pressed cider from Apple Hill Orchard just outside of Concord. So it's a totally locally based thing and super crushable, easy drinking. And the 4th one, which I am really excited about, is we're going to bring back Spring in Session, which is a session mead,
Which you never did in a can before.
which has never been in can before either. So we have 3 new canned products coming out, including the cranberry cider this year.
So cranberry cider, blueberry cider, and this
Honey
blend of
lavender
cider, and then
Spring in Session,
Session.
which is a rhubarb honey wine.
and it's honestly always been one of my favorites.
It's so crushable.
Yeah.
It's
What did we call that initially? Was that when the artist died? The Rebel. The first.
That was different. Rebel was a completely different product.
I thought it was a variation though. No.
No,
What was that?
that was a kiwi. That was a kiwi session.
Oh, kiwi session.
honey session.
Okay.
That was Rebel.
I'm sorry.
That was the year David Bowie died.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I just got that confused. There's only been a
There's been a
few
few
hundred
different
products that
have
been
been through here.
through
And that was
here.
another thing that was really a great learning process for me as a scientist, is I've got to take better notes, because I went back through all of my notes about all of the wines that we tasted yesterday in the vertical tasting. And it was a little confusing. The hardest part was I made 2 or 3 batches of Petite Blue every year in 2018, 2019. So there was a real mix of stuff that took place. And back then I was still naming Petite Blue in the year that I made it, not the year of the harvest of the berries. And then I changed that. So it's true to the fruit, the vintage of it. But it's a little weird. You know, right now we just made a batch of Petite Blue in 2024, in January of 2024, but the berries were harvested in 22.
I think you're worrying too much about all those details.
It messes with my brain.
Yeah, I know. I don't think you should worry about it. We aren't even allowed to put a vintage.
I
Nobody
know.
cares.
I know.
At the end of the day,
I care.
no, I care too. But at the end of the day, what matters is what is the importance of that product relative to what year it is. We produce it and release it because you're making that product. There's an importance to the terroir, but that's why you're using previous years. That's why you're switching up years. Is partly to do with the terroir.
Oh, right, exactly.
Getting the best fruit.
So I see Marika's comment right there.
Yes.
And Marika, Ben and I have already been talking.
Oh,
and
good.
we are thinking of a number of seasonal canned products. And yes.
Yes,
So
that's
there-
another vote.
We are thinking of a strawberry cider or a strawberry sizer that could be coming out. And yes, I will be true to the fruit, Gary, for sure.
But actually, would it be? I mean, it's possible we could, if we created a label for it, you could just put some of our strawberry rhubarb out as a can. We just put it in our bright tank and put the strawberry rhubarb out as a lightly effervescent canned product.
Oh, well, we could do that too.
Right?
We have Cirque
You
du
have everything
Strawberry.
there.
We
It was just
have
taking a
strawberry
portion
rhubarb.
of the strawberry rhubarb and
We do have that. And we could do
If we
that.
came up with a label
we could
for
do that
it?
this summer if we came up with a label for it. One of these.
I
you
could
could
do
just
that.
take that picture and change all the bottles to strawberries or whatever.
I like it. I think it's a good idea. I think it'd fly.
We're
The strawberry
thinking
rhubarb
too
is a
that
big hit.
when we get
Good idea, Marika.
Part of it is canned products are short lived.
Yeah.
You want to
So
put
we
them
can
in a
do
can
smaller
and you
volumes
want to
now.
consume them. We don't have as many people coming through the winery in December, January, February, or March than we do the rest of the year. So Ben and I were talking about kiwis, and kiwis would make a great can product, a kiwi cider or a kiwi sizer or a kiwi cider. So what we're planning on doing is getting extra kiwis, ripening them, and then freezing them, saving them for the springtime, and then making a
Rebel
new
Rebel.
product for a kiwi. I think we could do Rebel Rebel.
There you go.
again. Yeah.
So, Matt, and this is a good topic. We're supposed to talk about cans next week, but we're covering a lot of ground here. But
I know,
Matt-
we'll get back to cans. Next week we're going to be
We're going to
canning.
talk about it. Yeah, it's going to dedicate the show to it. So, Matt brought up, can we can Red Scare? So we could put it in his bike for riding Red Scare. And this is an important point to note. The big canning machinery that came in here to do our canning line with the mobile canning line had technology that allowed us to do a nitrogen dose.
Liquid nitrogen dosing.
nitrogen dose.
Yeah, an aluminum can is just this really thin-walled, soft thing. You know, you can just crush them when they're empty. So you put a carbonated product in, and it makes the can stiff, tight, because all that CO2 is trying to get out, and it can't because it's sealed. If you put a still wine in here, like Red Scare or Petite Blue, the can would just be squishy. So what you do, because you don't want a carbonated wine when you open it and pour it, is before the lid goes on, you dose it with just the right amount of liquid nitrogen. And you seal it up. Liquid nitrogen warms up and turns into nitrogen gas. The nitrogen gas holds the can rigid.
It doesn't make
Nitrogen gas does not go into the liquid.
Right.
So that's how you do that. A nitrogen dosing machine is about 20 grand
Yeah.
to add to a canning line.
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
We're going to have to
So
wait
then
for
we
that.
can do that.
So be patient, Matt. We will get there eventually.
We will
probably,
get there.
but- So we've spent another hour with our friends. It's
Wow, that went fast.
6:30. It did. I hope you could join us next week. We're going to talk about canning. We're going to have some video. We're going to share some video of the canning line in progress. Pretty cool machine.
Yes, it
And,
is. It's a great little machine. It's really a great machine. It's awesome.
Good. Glad you guys like
Yeah,
it.
it's very good.
All right.
Well
So
made.
thank you again
Thank
for
you
joining
all.
us, and we will see you all next week. If not after that, or maybe we'll see you here in the winery. Hope you come in and see us.
Well, quite a few of them might be by this weekend.
yes.
It's club
it's
release.
Club release.
Spring club release, and Sunday evening, for those of you who can make it,
Club party.
is a club party. There will be an email going out to all club members very soon.
Yes. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.